Excellent. So welcome everybody. Thank you so much, Heather, for joining us of this amazing webinar. Let me just give an intro and ask folks that if you are joining us, I will be muting you and maybe even muting or shutting off your video if it's not appropriate. We'll learn that I have to give this this little advice here if sometimes there are folks that are working or they're doing other things that can be a little bit disruptive, so don't mind if I do. And if you have questions, we're going to hold them until the end, and then Heather's going to have some time to go over them with everybody. So please take advantage of this. I know it was it was highly requested. Let me tell you guys a little bit more about Heather. So Nicole's Nannies was founded by a former nanny who has over 10 years of experience. The founder, Heather Nicole, who is joining us today, uses her knowledge of nannying as well as her background in childhood education and child psychology to help recruit and place the best nannies in New Jersey. So please welcome and thank you again so much for being here, Heather.
Of course. So today I'm going to talk about transitioning from a full-time nanny to a nanny agency owner. And I'm going to pretty much base this presentation to help those who are trying to transition from being a nanny into a nanny agency owner. But a lot of the topics I talk about will also help those who are just transitioning out of nannying, particularly with the emotions and kind of the transition period. And then obviously I'll answer any questions at the end that anybody may have. So there's a few important questions that you really need to ask yourself before you stop nannying. It's so important to ask because once you stop nannying, if you want to get back into the nanny world, once you have a gap of unemployment from one job to the next, it'll be really hard to secure a job. So you really need to make sure before you leave nannying that this is something you want to do and that you're willing to put your all into. So the first question you really need to ask is, why do you want to open a nanny agency? Are you feeling burnt out from caring for kids all day, working 60 hours a week? Do you want to still work with families and just help and assist in different ways in a different atmosphere? Do you feel that nannies need an advocate and that you could be a really great advocate to kind of help them get the benefits and the pay and kind of that experience that they need? The second one, can you financially afford it? So if you Google how much does it cost to start a nanny agency, you're going to get a broad range from $0 to $10,000. And it really is such a broad range, but it is also expensive. So you need to really think hard if you can afford the monthly expenses that come with an agency. This includes all the licenses, insurance, memberships, and then obviously not having a steady income. So if you're a nanny, most likely you get guaranteed hours every week, which means guaranteed pay every week. When you start a nanny agency, you're letting go of that steady income. You're no longer having guaranteed hours. You're not having guaranteed income. So you need to make sure you can financially afford that. The third one, are you aware of the steps needed to start an agency? That includes, as stated before, registering with your state, getting insurance, all of your social media accounts, websites, which are so important, and then advertising, because you obviously have to find a way to get yourself out there and get people to notice you. And then for how will you transition yourself? Such a big question of kind of, are you going to jump directly into owning an agency? Are you going to slowly transition yourself? How are you going to go about that? And then I think the most important question actually is, are you emotionally ready to transition? If you were anything like me and you were a nanny for over 10 years and you've spent most of your adult life just caring for kids, waking up at 6 a.m., not getting home till 7:30 p.m., and just having that routine and schedule with kids, switching from that to sitting in front of an office is just such a opposite thing. You're not with kids anymore. So you really need to know and think hard, are you prepared to work in an office setting and no longer be able to have baby cuddles or play with kids all day? So where do you start? such a question I get. I have so many nannies who call me or email me and they just ask me, how did I get started? How should they start? How should they go about this? And I'm really not afraid to kind of spill my secrets on what it comes to starting a nanny agency, especially because I think as a community, the more people advocating for nannies, the better, especially if there's more people making those quality placements. So let's take a quick look at the steps needed to open a nanny agency, and then we'll talk about transitioning. So first step is create a business plan. Creating a business plan, it not only helps keep you organized and managed, but it helps you in determining certain aspects of the agency, such as all the fees and the goals you'll have for yourself. You can also use a business plan if you want to get an office. You would submit it to a bank for a small loan. You would need a business plan to do that. I personally used my business plan to help me with my goals and plans. So the first step of creating a business plan is determining your business name. This is forever, so you really need to take your time. You need to think about it because you're stuck with it. Once you have your name, you can't change it. Or you could, but you just may lose a lot of clients with it. I chose Nicole's Nannies because Nicole is my middle name, and I thought it was cute, really flowed together, kind of stuck in your minds, and it's worked really well for me so far. So after you create your business name, you then need to think about your goals. So there's short-term goals and long-term goals. Short-term goals can be pretty simple as in the next 6 months, I want to have 3 clients. Long-term goals can be such as I want to make X amount by year 2 and have 5 to 10 employees working under me. Maybe you want to offer classes, you want to offer support to nannies within that certain time frame. Those are all things you would put into your goals, and everybody's goals are different. So what works for one nanny agency is not going to work for you. So that being said, if you look online for a nanny agency business plan, that business plan is basic and it's not what you want to put into your business. Along with goals, you also are going to just need a detailed description of your plans. That also includes the placement fees, your timeline for work, how you plan on interviewing your nannies and clients, how you plan on advocating for nannies, and how you plan on making those quality placements. That page should probably be 5 pages long. It should have everything you plan on doing in your business, down to how you plan on sending resumes to families. You also need to set your financial predictions and goals, which is so important because it helps keep you on track and it helps kind of keep you not feeling overwhelmed with what is my goal for next month? What am I going to make next month? It just helps you stay on track, because time honestly flies when you're a business owner. Like, you could start your business tomorrow and the next thing you know, it's a year later and you're like, oh my gosh, where has time gone? Have I met any of my goals? This is when you look back and you see if you've met your financial goals. So for example, one of my financial predictions and goals was that by year 2, I would have 2 part-time employees working for me where they are getting hourly pay. And I was able to achieve that by working hard and continuously looking at my predictions and goals, changing things around to make sure I was meeting those goals. So your goals can be as simple or as complex as you want, because the business plan is for you. Unless you obviously are getting a loan, then it's for a bank as well, and they'll review it. And having a business plan, it really helps you stay organized and managed. And I talk about staying organized and keeping a schedule so much. It's one of the most important things of being a business owner, regardless what business you have, because if you're not organized and you're not managed, then your business is not organized or managed. And it's a huge factor to running a successful business. Next, you need to do your business licenses, insurance, and acquire a lawyer and look at memberships. So every state is different, but you will have to file for appropriate licenses in your state. And this normally includes determining if you're going to be an LLC or a partnership. That basically, like, our agency is a LLC because there's one owner. So if you are starting an agency with a friend, you're going to have to look towards partnership because things are going to be split 50-50. But if you're going in on your own, typically you're an LLC unless you choose elsewise. You also need to hire a lawyer. I suggest getting one before you file for your licenses, just to make sure that you are filing for the appropriate ones, and they can help you submit the proper paperwork. Because there's a ton of paperwork when you're opening up a business. The lawyer is not only going to help you file that paperwork for all of the proper licenses and your employer identification number, but they're also going to help you with your contracts. So they're going to help you with your terms of use. They're going to help you with your contracts for the family, with the contracts with the nanny, and then the most important thing that they're going to help you with is protecting you. Because no matter what business you have, you're going to have unhappy clients. You're going to have unhappy customers. We personally have unfortunately had a few clients and a few nannies be unhappy with our services, and although we've tried to work it out, they just have been unhappy. So that is where our lawyer has protected us, and we have been able to resolve it without it getting too messy and make sure that client is happy. So that's just a very important thing. Do not be frugal with the lawyer, because this is your business and this is going to be your main source of income, so you really want to protect yourself. And that you also have to get insured. A lawyer can help you find an insurance agent. A lot of big insurance agencies, they do not really know how to insure nanny agencies. So I definitely suggest looking into smaller insurance brokers. They help you basically, they protect your business. So if something were to happen with a placement, such as if a nanny or family, something were to happen, and they were to try to sue you, your insurance and your lawyer would cover you, and they would protect you. There's a whole different list of insurance. That's a whole nother topic to get into, because there's just so much information with that one, but you have to get insured. And then you need to become involved. That's where memberships come into play. So if you're watching this webinar, most likely you are a member of the International Nanny Association, which is great because it's how you stay involved. So as a nanny agency owner, you want to continue being involved. So not only with this association, but with other nanny associations. You should be involved in the nanny community, whether that's nanny groups, nanny gatherings. You really should have yourself out there and stay connected with the nannies, because without the nannies, you have no business. And that's just how it is, because it's a nanny agency. So you really need those nannies. So definitely stay involved with that. And then talking about websites, your social media, and other programs needed to run the business. So once you have your business plan, all of that, you then need to create a website. So you can use programs such as Wix, which can help save money and time, or you can hire somebody to design a website for you. But your website is going to be the main area where people look. They're going to Google your name, your website's going to come up. It has to be incredibly user-friendly. I'm talking links here, your family application, your nanny application. It needs to be 5 links on one page, because if people can't find that, it's a problem for you. So when creating your website, make sure it's very user-friendly. And then also using social media. So Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter. Using social media is huge for any business, especially now in this day and age. Particularly for our business, we definitely utilize Facebook and Instagram a ton. Facebook is where we get a lot of our clients from, we get a lot of our nannies from, a lot of word of mouth through there. They find our Facebook page, then they find our website, then they find our email, they find our number. So social media is super important. You really have to also make sure it's just presented nice as well, and that it's not too cluttered with information, that you're occasionally sharing fun things as well as jobs. And then you need to find a program for your invoicing, your contact forms, and storing client and candidate information at. This is probably one of the most frustrating steps ever. It's so overwhelming. It's so expensive. And it took us about probably 3 to 4 programs before I found one that really worked for my agency and my employees, and that we were able to use to organize everybody. I'm personally a huge fan of color-coded things, tabs, folders, and even though there are programs specifically out there for nanny agencies, none of them worked for me personally. So I spent a lot of money trying to figure this one out, and it was frustrating. So that's something that's going to take you a really long time, and I definitely suggest trying to figure that one out before you start bringing nannies in, because having to transfer everybody from site to site gets really exhausting. So that's very important. And then after you insure yourself, you get your website up and running, you figure out your business plan, you have to focus on your business dynamics. This is a little stressful, especially if you do not have the income to pay employees. Because if you work solo, you're going to work a lot. If you hire people, you're going to be out money. So you have to kind of weigh the pros and cons of, do I want to work a lot on my own and make all this money and do all this on myself and burn myself out at this job? Or do I want to hire people and make sure I'm making quality placements because I'm not so burnt out and stretched thin? Now, if you hire people, you then get into a whole new area of, you are no longer an employee or just your own boss, you are an employer. That means unless your staff is working on their own time and can be considered a 1099 employee, most likely they're not, because you're giving them direct details and job description, so they're a W-2 employee. So now you have to set up payroll for staff, which is a whole nother expense, a whole nother area that you have to focus on. So you have to really sit and think about that and kind of also determine roles of staff. Will you have recruiters who just find you nannies? Will you have placement officers who help do interviews, who help do the scheduling, who call the families? Will you have people who do your invoicing? There's a lot that goes into that, and we can most definitely talk about that later if anybody has questions on that. And then last, you need to find clients and nannies. So this is also a very scary, overwhelming part, because if you have no clients, you have no business. If you have no nannies, you have no clients. So it's a circle. You need clients and nannies. So you have to figure out, are you going to rely on word of mouth? Are you going to budget for advertising? And then once you do have these nannies and clients, where are you interviewing them? Because you can't send a nanny to a client without interviewing them. So you have to figure out if you have an added expense of renting an office, or are you able to meet at a coffee shop, or is your home an appropriate setting for them? Personally, for us, we started out as advertising to get our first client, spent a little money to make a little money. And then now I would say 95% of our clients and nannies are just word of mouth. So definitely we put a lot of money into advertising in the beginning, and then we had a lot of word of mouth, which works out financially better for us. So now that we've discussed kind of the steps needed to open an agency, we're going to talk about how you transition. Number one, first and foremost, most important, I cannot stress this enough, you need to have a savings plan in place. I do believe that a lot of nannies might think once they get a client, boom, they're done. It's easy sailing from there. But when you start a nanny agency, you're putting a lot of money out, and you're not getting a lot of money in. So you really need to have that savings plan in place, because you're going to be paying for bills. You have monthly bills, you have now business bills. Unless you have no bills at all, then I want your life. But most likely you're going to have a ton of bills. So you need to have that savings plan in place. And I'll talk about in a little bit about how to do that. So next, once you have your savings plan in place, you set up your office. This is so important. You need a safe place to work. You need a clear place to work, a space that's specifically just for your office. So this is either you can rent an office Monday through Friday. They have programs where you can just rent a little office, or you can work from home. We're personally home-based, so my office is upstairs, and that means that I have my own desk, my own space, all my files, and my placement officers, they all work from home as well, and we do interviews in home, or we do interviews at a public coffee shop if it's easier for the nanny. We really try to accommodate the nannies, and we meet our clients in their homes if they want to meet us, although sometimes clients do not have the time to meet, so we just do a quick FaceTime. And then after you determine your savings and you get a little office set up, it's time to stop nannying, which is one of the biggest questions ever. And I keep saying a lot of these steps are scary because a lot of these steps are scary, but so worth it. So a lot of questions I get are, how do you transition into a full-time nanny agency owner when you are a full-time nanny? So I'm just going to kind of tell you what I did, and it could or could not work for you. So I started slow because emotionally I needed to ease myself out of nannying. So I created my business when I was a full-time nanny. Had a very supportive boss, thankfully. Worked on it in the evenings and weekends. And after about a year of building that business and having a little bit of clients and being able to place on the evenings and weekends, I had enough savings to eventually go part-time, which was very, very scary for me. I went from working 60 hours straight to 25 hours, which is such a huge cut, and you would think it would be such a relief, but I kind of went from having all these nanny responsibilities to having no nanny responsibilities, and then all these business responsibilities because I had to focus on my business more than just evenings and weekends. So it was very daunting of having my entire mornings of focused on a business, my afternoons focused on kids, a lot of adjustment period. I probably did that for about a year where I worked on the business part-time. And then I said goodbye to nanny. I just quit my part-time job. Once again, my boss was so supportive of it. And it was so scary because I went from caring for babies 25 hours a week to sitting in front of a desk like this. And no babies crying, no arts and crafts, no feeding, no schedule, none of that. So it was such a crazy transition. So I continuously kind of babysat on nights and weekends, just like here and there to get my little baby fix. But eventually I just got so busy with the agency that I no longer had time to babysit. So I personally did not jump straight into an agency. I slowly transitioned myself over almost the course of 2 years before I was a full-time agency owner. So it was a long, slow process, but I was able to build my savings, which I said was number one, most important. You have to have that savings, because if I did not have that savings, I would be overwhelmed and stressed and not knowing how to pay my bills. So I definitely suggest slowly transitioning if you are thinking of making the move. And once you do transition and you're no longer nannying, you still really, really need that routine and schedule. I think once people work from home, they start to think they can set their hours, work how they want, when they want, they can wake up when they want, they can do this and that. But once you do that, your life is a mess. It's just, you can't. You have to have a routine and schedule. You have to have a planner. You have to still work full time. This is your income. And when you slack, your business slacks. So you need to plan ahead. You need to develop a routine. You need to keep a work schedule. Personally, I think you need to work 9 to 5 when you can, just so that you have that schedule. Although there are some days for me personally that are slow, or have placement officers who want to pick up more work, so I take a step back a little bit for a day or two, and I do half days, which is nice. Or I, normally try to do paperwork on those days or something. So personally, my routine and schedule is I wake up, I make my coffee, I unload my dishwasher, I make breakfast, I do lunches for my family, and then it's normally around 9 o'clock by the time I'm done doing all that. So I come and I sit at my computer, I get to work, I take a break around 1 p.m. for lunch, where I either meet a friend or do just like laundry or something, and then I come back and I work till 4:35. This helps me stay to be able to meet my goals that I have made in my business plan. If I did not have a schedule, I would not be meeting my goals. My business plan would fail. So once your transitions, we're going to talk about kind of, I guess, what emotions you feel and how you deal with the change. And it's a pretty crazy period. So first emotion is you're going to feel lonely, and it really stinks, but that's how it is, because you go from having a day filled with feeding children, You're bringing them to their activities and having that routine and schedule. You're able to play games and do arts and crafts, and then suddenly that's gone. You no longer have that. So it's lonely. You have no coworkers, you have nobody to talk to, you have your Alexa playing music, but that's it. Which is a normal feeling when you go from that. And the next feeling you're going to feel is most likely scared. And that's also completely normal when you're transitioning from really any job. When you're going into a new thing, you're going to feel scared. So when you leave your steady income with your steady hours, it's so scary. But that's why we have that savings plan in place. So if you have that savings plan in place, then you shouldn't be as scared because you know you're taken care of financially. So even if you work for this for 3 months and you feel it's not the right fit for you, you have a 3-month hiatus, you had savings to cover you, and you jump back into nannying. But yeah, it can just really ease that fear. So then you might also feel unfulfilled. If you're anything like me, I feel most fulfilled when I'm taking care of kids. I have a very maternal instinct. I love taking care of kids, which is why I was the nanny. And so when you're not doing that, you might just feel unfulfilled. And that's also normal because you're going from taking care of kids to doing nothing. Not doing nothing. You're working at an office, so you are doing things, but you have a lot of free time, pretty much. You have a lot of empty time, very quiet, and you're working as your own boss. So you might also feel overwhelmed with all that kind of free time where you're not taking care of kids. And I've been doing this for a long time, and I still feel overwhelmed a lot. Even when I have my routines and schedules, sometimes you just feel really overwhelmed. And in the beginning, it's a lot. It's a lot of overwhelming feelings. You feel like you don't know if you can do it. It's too much. It's too much too fast. It's different. It's a little scary. So that's a very common feeling. And then along with overwhelmed is feeling of failure. So this I felt very early on. I don't feel it anymore, thankfully, but very early on I felt it when I did not have that steady flow of clients. I felt like a failure. I wasn't bringing in steady income for my family. I was not able to find nannies sometimes. Sometimes I wasn't placing with those clients. Those clients would hire me and then hire on their own, and I was just like, what am I doing? Like, I feel like such a failure. I feel like I can't do this. But I cannot stress enough. And I too once wanted to give up on the business venture, but I cannot stress enough that you have to push through that feeling, because the only time you ever fail in life is when you stop, when you give up. So you're not failing. So your feeling of failure it's not there because you're not failing. Because as long as you continue pushing through, it will get better. You just have to, maybe if you're not getting clients or you're not getting nannies, you have to just kind of change your business plan a little and think of different ways, different pricing, different fees, different routines to kind of get those clients. And once you change your work and the way you look at your work, then those clients will come in and that feeling of failure will disappear. And then also you might feel sad. And I mean, the only reason you wouldn't feel sad is if you didn't enjoy nannying, which if you're a nanny, I don't see that being a real thing. So I still feel sad sometimes because I'm not caring for kids. And like I said, loneliness is with that as well. When you're with kids for so long, that feeling comes. So something you can do for that is like babysit, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, because that is a very overpowering feeling, especially when your home is quiet and you're just doing nanny interviews all day or talking to clients or doing invoicing or making contracts. You can just feel a little sad. So some things you can do with those emotions, I highly suggest joining some Facebook groups. I'm still part of quite a few Facebook groups, and I like to kind of share my knowledge there. I like to just like read little stories. Kind of makes me happy to see like really amazing nannies out there just caring for those kids and loving them and kind of going through their daily routines. I like to be involved with the community. You can take breaks during the day where you can work out, maybe grab some lunch, run a quick errand. This is a really, really great way to deal with feeling overwhelmed or sad or lonely. I normally like to grab lunch with a friend when I'm feeling kind of lonely, like I don't have a coworker. I like to maybe get a quick workout in, make myself not feel so blah during the days, especially when I normally am so used to running, when I used to run around all the time to the park and stuff with kids. You can also babysit still to kind of help with those emotions. So it's okay to babysit even years after you own a nanny agency. Maybe you just need a little baby snacks every once in a while. So for the first probably couple of years after owning the agency, I still babysat for some weekends, date nights, all of that, kind of just to fill that little void that I had from not being with kids, because it is just such a big transition. And also it helps that I have really great relationships with all my past employers, so I'm able to see those kids. And I'm assuming a lot of nannies probably have the same experience. So when they're transitioning, they'll still be able to kind of see those kids and meet those kids. And then also dealing with, you can decorate your office space. So that really helps kind of give your office some life, make it not feel so dreary, especially because you have no coworkers. I like to hang pictures of my family, of my friends, really like to put little knickknacks that make me happy. It's just kind of my space. It's my work area that I go to. It's the place where I get all my work done to provide for my family and make my business successful. And also stay involved is so important. So once you are a full-time nanny agency owner, it's super important to stay involved. I know I've talked about this already, but once you own an agency, you still need to have connections with nannies. You still need to kind of keep active in those Facebook groups. You should attend conferences. You should stay up to date on recommended practices for nanny agencies, as well as recommended practices for nannies and clients or families. You should really just stay up to date on all of that. Make sure you're constantly informed, but definitely keeping it active in those nanny communities kind of helps you feel like you're still part of something and you're not just working in an office by yourself. We love making connections. We love helping out nannies and families. In the past, we've done Mom's Night Out where we've had our nannies caring for the kids and the moms come and they have some food and drinks. It helps get us out, like the word of us and our business out. We also like to send out a monthly newsletter with free resources for our nannies to kind of stay involved, as well as free resources for our parents. And we do some blog posts occasionally as well. We have some nannies do blogs for us. So staying involved is super important during this entire process. And so if anybody has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. I may have talked pretty fast through some of that, so I'm not sure if you guys grabbed it all, but definitely if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer anything.
Well, thank you so much, Heather. That was amazing. We have some folks that have joined after. Hi, Daniel. Hi, Kim. Hi, Krista. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have any questions here on the chat, but if you guys want to ask something, go ahead. Oh, everybody's muted, by the way, so let me unmute you. Oh. So I'm unmuting all, and if you want to be muted, you can just mute again, okay? Sorry.
Hey, how you doing? I got no questions. I just want to say hi.
Hi.
Hi. Well done. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
Daniel, I have a question. Do you still nanny or nanny?
No, I don't still nanny.
No. Oh, I mean Daniel. I saw that he jumped in, and I know he has an agency too. So just curious.
Oh.
Officially, no. Unofficially, for the highest bidder and the person I like the most.
Yeah. Awesome. Oh, hi, Marcy. Also joined. Hi, Hope. Do you have a question? Go ahead.
I do, yeah. I was just, I wondered about advice for if you're thinking about doing like agency type work and placements, about finding a lawyer that actually has worked with that, because that seems to be a little bit challenging. So I know you can just Google, but like sometimes they're like out of state, and I'd prefer if they were like in my state. I don't know. Any recommendations?
Yeah, so what I actually did is I personally am so huge on women business owners. So I actually found in my town a woman lawyer who was just starting out her own company. So unfortunately, she did not have experience with nannies and that type of law, but she did have experience with referral agencies and staffing agencies and drafting those contracts. So the issue is with nanny agencies, I've noticed a lot, even with insurance, it's hard finding people specifically for us. It's so hard, even for nannies. It's hard finding lawyers, insurance, everything that represents us. So if you look into companies or smaller businesses that do staffing agencies and referral agencies, it's the same exact layout as it is for a nanny agency.
Okay. And when you're looking for insurance, sorry, I don't know if anyone has any other questions, but if you're looking for insurance, just because like if you're working with a lawyer that maybe doesn't know like nanny agencies and maybe has some familiarity with staffing, when you're looking for insurance, would you also look at like insurance for staffing, or is nannying its own?
Yeah, so when we set up our insurance, we were considered a referral agency. So they have really anywhere you go, even when you apply for your license, there isn't a nanny agency. We are considered a staffing or a referral agency, and because we are not employers of the nannies, we are technically considered a referral agency. So so anywhere you're looking for contracts, all that, always look for referral agencies.
Okay.
Actually, I'm an employment agency in New York City, so I think it really depends on where you're located and what your laws are there too. I really wanted to be a referral agency to be like, yeah, we just refer people because it felt much simpler. But here in New York City, they're like, no, you are an employment agency. And that comes with a lot of laws and posters that must be hung and all sorts of things. So yeah, just to keep that in mind, because I actually don't think that many other people call themselves employment agencies. And I would say there are people in New York City who operate and perhaps are licensed outside of the city, who kind of skirt around that a little bit, with, in regards to being classified as an employment agency or just like a nanny matchmaking service. But that's a risk, obviously, that is really specific to our area.
Yeah, definitely. So we're in New Jersey, so it's a little bit similar, but not quite. So what I talked about in the beginning was having a lawyer to kind of walk you through the steps of what licenses are preferred for your state. So we cannot operate in New York because we are not an employment agency, as you said, because the laws are so different there than they are in New Jersey. New Jersey is a little bit more relaxed, but still pretty strict. But definitely I recommend having a lawyer kind of walk you through the appropriate steps, because when you go onto your state's website to file for a license, it's so overwhelming. There's so many different things, and you can just really apply for anything and they don't check. So I suggest getting a lawyer to kind of help you make sure you're getting the right license and right insurance.
Right. Yeah. And there's even a lot of cities have free lawyers. If there's like free business programs, I know there was some in New York. They also provided like a 30-minute, there were lawyers who would do pro bono work for the first 30 minutes or an hour through people who'd gone through a specific program. So that was really nice. But the woman that I worked with said that one of her clients was a similar nanny agency many years ago, and they went to do their taxes, and the government was like, oh, cool, how'd you make all this money? And she was like, oh, this is our business. And they were like, you're an employment agency, and you owe every penny of that $100,000 back to everybody who ever placed with you, who you ever got, and you also have to have them sign an affidavit that you actually paid them the money back. It was a whole thing, and that's the reason why the person who had opened the agency had found this lawyer, and this lawyer was like, so you're doing the right thing by coming to me first. And I was like, cool. But yeah, it's great advice about that for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Before you start any business venture, I highly suggest having a lawyer from the beginning until the end. That's just an expense you do not want to be frugal on. You want a good lawyer who can represent you from start to finish, because no matter how many years you're going to be in business as well, you're going to run upon hiccups that you're going to need that lawyer to kind of represent and back you up through anything and everything. Any more questions?
Question, guys. Kim, you're here. I know. Yeah, I guess we didn't get all the 30 people that were, talking about this. I'm kind of like, come on, people. I got so many inbox this last 2 weeks about this, and like, where are you? And you did too, right, Heather? You said you also
Yeah,
got.
I'm very surprised because I had a lot of nannies asking if I was gonna switch it to talk about how to open up an agency rather than just the feelings and transition. So I did kind of switch it all around. So I am very surprised as well.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, I think folks are, as I said, they're getting comfortable that it is on their portal and they can watch later. And I know it's hard. It's still, working day for a lot of people. So we understand that for sure.
Of course.
All right. Well, but I do want to be respectful of your time. So thank you so much for, being here with us and sharing out of your knowledge and your experience. And if folks have questions, is it okay for them to still contact you? We can tag you on Facebook and let them know in our Facebook group. And if they feel like, after watching the video, you can definitely, direct them there first. And then if they have, questions afterwards, then they can come to you or even post it on the event page. So then others can take a look at the question too. And then, the answer is going to be there. Or if you prefer to be more personal, then you guys can definitely chat offline. But again, thank you. Anybody has, any other questions in there? I guess that's it. So thank you so much again. And I'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.
Bye.